Today in the bunker, I'm going to show you how I make post-apocalyptic terrain. Now the first thing we want to do is make a base. I tend to cut these in an irregular shape, no hard edges, just to a little more naturally blend with the table. You can do it with hard edges, especially if you're doing like a cityscape and you want it to meld into a city block, something that's very regular, then obviously you'd want to do that. But for these, I'm trying to get them to work out in the countryside or in a natural area, if anything in the apocalypse can be said to be natural. So what I'm going to do is go put the sandable sealer on this, and that will make it very hard and make it so it won't warp. So we'll be right back with that. Alright, we've got the base painted with sandable sealer. This will make it very impervious to glue, keep it from warping. A can of it, a quart is probably somewhere between $16 and $18. Depending if you catch it on sale. That's what it was at Home Depot the other day. And it'll last for a very long time. You don't have to put much on. This also works great on any kind of paper buildings you're doing. It makes it impervious to humidity. And of course it's created for sealing wood grain. So if you're doing something with wood and you don't want the wood grain to show through, you would use a couple of coats of this, then sand it smooth. You get a nice smooth finish. So it's got a lot of uses, some of them a little outside the box for what it's intended for, but that's where war gamers, that's what we do. Now that the base is done, cut out some sort of semi-irregular walls for the carcass, the main body of the building. I just cut a few pieces of foam core, and I started using black foam core because it was easier when it came time to paint it. You didn't have that white peeking out in the spots you inevitably missed. So white works fine. Either one is great. I just went with black for a kind of a speed issue. But we're gonna kind of eyeball this. As always, be safe when you're cutting. The great thing about post-apocalyptic buildings like this is they don't have to be super scientifically square or anything like that. They're sort of built from scrap, so if they look a little scrappy, well, that's even better. And I try to leave a little bit of space around the edges, but not too much. I'm not trying to do a huge scenic base. I'm going to trim this down just a bit. I better use a straight edge, or I'm going to hose this completely. But you want pieces roughly the same size. We'll kind of figure out how they go together. This is all still a little bit large for the base. And here's where some better planning would probably come in handy. Actual measurements. Perish the thought. But you do end up with these little offcuts. They're good for things. We'll use them to shore up portions of the building or whatever at some point. Okay, one handy thing you can use is a bit of painter's tape just to sort of hold everything together. I don't have a box of pins right now, so I can't pin it together. It's normally what I would do. So I'll just sort of tape it. Alright, and that'll give us a rough approximation how it's going to go together. And there we go. So that'll fit nicely. So I'm going to glue that up. I'm going to use some tacky glue because it dries so much faster. You can use regular PBA, you can use super glue, hot glue certainly. It's probably the fastest. But whatever glue you have, that works great, and just glue it up. Let's put a nice bead on there. Probably should have gone around in a circle. But that's fine. The first bead we put on will give it time to get set up a little bit. It's not a problem. And if you watch the camera instead of the piece, then you glue it way all wonky, but hey, whatever works. Try to square it up a little bit just to make life easier later on. Although we're going to cover this, so our Wrigley tin, corrugated steel, corrugated iron, whatever you want to call it, will cover a multitude of sins, like not having the piece in the camera shot. So we'll wait for that to set up.